The last day of round-robin play at the WTA Finals was one to remember for our US Open finalists Aryna Sabalenka and Amanda Anisimova, but it was one to forget for our Roland Garros and Wimbledon champions Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek.
Set away, how did you turn things around?
Yeah, if I would know, probably I wouldn't put myself in that situation. I don't know. I was just trying to stay aggressive, I guess. I was just trying to find my rhythm, find my game. I was kind of like working for the second set already, but then magically I was able to turn things around. And yeah, super happy with the performance. Super happy to get this win in straight sets, and yeah, just happy to be through the round robin.
Amanda.
Coco Gauff just lost to Aryna Sabalenka at the WTA Finals. And instead of giving the usual post-match interview, she delivered an emotional speech about not playing to win anymore. She talked about pride, purpose, and representing something bigger than trophies. The tennis world wasn't ready for that level of honesty. Have you ever felt like you were living up to everyone's expectations except your own? Let me know in the comments. So Coco Gauff lost to Aryna Sabalenka in the round-robin stage of the WTA Finals. It wasn't a particularly shocking result. Sabalenka is one of the best players in the world right now, and she's been crushing opponents left and right. Coco fought hard, but it wasn't enough. Standard tennis match, standard result. Except what happened after the match was anything but standard. Instead of giving the typical post-match interview where players thank the crowd, compliment their opponent, and say something vague about looking forward to the next match, Coco got emotional. Really emotional. She stood at the microphone with tears in her eyes and said something that caught everyone off guard. She said she's not playing to win anymore. She's playing for pride and purpose.
Yeah, tough match for me tonight. Overall, a positive tournament. I had chances in both sets, but she played better tonight. I felt like I did my best with the game plan that I had. I think it just came down to a couple points, and that's tennis.
Now, let's be clear about what that sounds like at first. When an athlete says they're not playing to win, it usually means they've given up, they're burned out, or they're making excuses for losing. But that's not what Coco meant at all. She was saying something much deeper, much more honest, and frankly much more interesting than the usual corporate athlete speak we're used to hearing. What Coco was really saying is that she's been carrying the weight of everyone's expectations for years, and it's been crushing her. Ever since she burst onto the scene at 15 years old, people have been calling her the future of tennis, the next Serena, the savior of American tennis, a symbol for an entire generation. That's a lot of pressure to put on a teenager, and apparently it's been eating at her for a long time. She talked about how winning started to feel hollow, which is wild to hear from a professional athlete whose entire job is to win matches. But think about it. When you're constantly being told that you have to win, that you're supposed to win, that everyone expects you to win, the actual act of winning becomes less about personal achievement and more about meeting other people's demands. It stops being your victory and starts being a checkbox on someone else's list of expectations. Coco described it as constantly running toward expectations she never set for herself, running away from the fear of disappointing everyone, and that's exhausting. No matter how many matches she won, no matter how many trophies she collected, there was always another tournament, another expectation, another opportunity to let people down. The praise felt good in the moment, but it faded quickly, and she was left wondering who she was without the winning. This is the kind of honest conversation we almost never get from professional athletes. Most of them are trained to give safe answers, to never show weakness, to always project confidence and determination. But Coco stood up there and admitted she's been struggling with the mental and emotional weight of her career. That takes guts, especially in a sport like tennis where mental toughness is seen as just as important as physical ability. She talked about a breaking point during a particularly exhausting tournament. She was in the locker room, staring at herself in the mirror, seeing the tired eyes and clenched jaw of someone trying way too hard to be unshakable. And she whispered to herself, "I feel like I'm living for everyone but myself." That's the kind of moment that probably happens to a lot of athletes, but most of them would never admit it publicly. The thing is, Coco isn't wrong to feel this way. The expectations placed on her have been ridiculous from the start. When she was 15 and made that deep run at Wimbledon, beating Venus Williams along the way, everyone lost their minds. Suddenly, she was supposed to be the next big thing, the heir to the Williams sisters' legacy, the player who would dominate women's tennis for the next decade. But she was 15. She was still figuring out her game, still developing physically and mentally, still learning how to handle the pressure of professional tennis. And instead of being allowed to grow at her own pace, she was immediately burdened with massive expectations. Every match became a referendum on whether she was living up to the hype. Every loss was treated like a catastrophic failure. That's not a healthy environment for anyone, let alone a teenager. What apparently changed for Coco was a visit to a community center in her hometown. She was expecting it to be just another obligation, something she promised to do and had to follow through on even though she was tired. But when she got there, the kids weren't asking about her ranking or her recent results. They just loved her because she represented possibility. One little girl told her, "You make me believe I could do anything." And that hit Coco harder than any tennis match ever could. Because that's when she realized her purpose wasn't about winning every tournament. It was about representing something bigger. It was about showing kids, especially kids who look like her, that they could chase their dreams too. It was about being a symbol of strength and courage, not just a collection of trophies and titles. This is where her speech after losing to Sabalenka came from. She wasn't making excuses for the loss. She was explaining that she's redefined what success means to her. It's not about the scoreboard anymore. It's about the impact she has on people, the inspiration she provides, the pride she brings to her family and community. That's the purpose she's playing for now. And honestly, that's probably healthier than the mentality she had before. When your entire self-worth is tied to winning matches, you're setting yourself up for a miserable career. You're going to lose sometimes. Everyone does. If you can only feel good about yourself when you win, you're going to spend a lot of time feeling terrible. But if you're playing for something bigger than just results, you can find meaning and satisfaction even in defeat. Of course, saying all of this after losing to Sabalenka is interesting timing. Some people are probably going to see it as Coco making excuses or trying to downplay the loss, but it doesn't really seem like that's what she's doing. She fought hard in that match. She gave it everything she had. She just ran into a player who was better that day. And instead of being devastated by the loss, she was able to put it in perspective because she's playing for reasons that go beyond just winning or losing individual matches. The speech resonated with a lot of people. Parents shared it with their kids. Teachers played it in classrooms. Other athletes talked about how they related to what Coco was saying. Because the pressure to perform, to meet expectations, to be perfect all the time, that's something a lot of people deal with. It's not just athletes. It's students. It's professionals. It's anyone who feels like they're constantly being judged and evaluated. What Coco did was give people permission to redefine success on their own terms. She showed that it's okay to admit when the pressure is too much. It's okay to say that you need to play for different reasons than the ones everyone else assumes. It's okay to prioritize mental health and personal fulfillment over external validation. Now, does this mean Coco is going to stop trying to win matches? Obviously not. She's a professional tennis player. Winning is still part of the job. But the difference is that winning isn't the only thing that matters anymore. It's not the sole measure of her worth or success. She can walk off the court after a loss and still feel good about who she is and what she represents. This is actually similar to what we saw with Naomi Osaka a few years ago when she started being open about her mental health struggles. She faced criticism for withdrawing from tournaments and being honest about her anxiety and depression. But she also started important conversations about athlete mental health and the unrealistic expectations placed on young stars. Coco is doing something similar, just in a different way. The difference is that Coco is still competing at the highest level while being open about these struggles. She's not stepping away from the game. She's not taking a break. She's showing up, playing her matches, and being honest about the mental and emotional challenges that come with it. That's actually harder in some ways because she's making herself vulnerable while still being in the spotlight. The speech also highlights something that doesn't get talked about enough in sports: the loneliness of individual competition. In team sports, you have teammates to share the pressure with, to celebrate victories with, to process defeats with. In tennis, you're out there alone. You win alone, you lose alone, and you carry all the expectations alone. That's incredibly isolating, especially when you're young and dealing with massive public attention. Coco mentioned her family and how they sacrificed everything for her career. That's another layer of pressure that people don't always consider. When your parents have given up so much to support your dreams, you feel obligated to succeed for them too. You don't want to let them down. You don't want their sacrifices to be for nothing. So you push yourself harder, even when you're exhausted, even when you're not sure if this is still what you want. The fact that she's working through all of this publicly is going to help a lot of people. Young athletes who are feeling similar pressure will see that even someone as successful as Coco Gauff struggles with these things. They'll see that it's okay to question your path, to redefine your goals, to play for reasons beyond just winning. That's valuable. But let's not pretend this solves everything. Coco is still going to face enormous pressure every time she steps on the court. People are still going to have expectations. She's still going to be compared to other players. She's still going to be asked why she hasn't won more Grand Slams. The external pressure doesn't go away just because she's reframed how she thinks about it internally. The challenge now is maintaining this mindset when things get tough. It's easy to say you're playing for pride and purpose after a loss in the round-robin stage of a tournament. It's harder to maintain that perspective when you're in a Grand Slam final and the pressure is at its absolute peak. That's when the old patterns of thinking can come roaring back, when the fear of disappointment can override all the mental work you've done. Coco is also going to have to deal with people who don't understand what she's saying. There will be critics who say she's making excuses, who say she's lost her competitive edge, who say she's gone soft. That's inevitable. Not everyone is going to appreciate or understand the mental health aspect of what she's talking about. Some people still believe athletes should just shut up and play, that talking about emotions and pressure is a sign of weakness. But the fact that she's willing to be this honest despite knowing she'll face criticism shows real strength. She's not hiding behind corporate speak or safe answers. She's putting herself out there, being vulnerable and trusting that people will understand. That's brave, especially for someone who's been in the public eye since she was a teenager. The loss to Sabalenka itself was pretty standard. Sabalenka is playing incredible tennis right now. She's powerful, aggressive, and incredibly confident. Coco fought hard but couldn't match that level. In the context of the tournament, it's not a devastating result. She still has other matches in the round-robin stage. She can still advance. It's not the end of the world. But Coco used that moment to say something that mattered more than the match result. She used her platform to talk about something real, something honest, something that will probably help people. That's using your voice effectively. That's understanding that you have influence beyond just your performance on the court. Going forward, it'll be interesting to see if this shift in mindset actually helps her performance. Sometimes when athletes stop putting so much pressure on themselves, they actually play better. They're more relaxed, more creative, more willing to take risks. When you're not paralyzed by the fear of losing, you can actually play more freely. So maybe this new approach will actually make Coco a better player. Or maybe it won't change her results at all, and that's okay too. Because the point isn't whether this makes her win more matches. The point is that she's finding a healthier, more sustainable way to approach her career. She's protecting her mental health. She's redefining success on her own terms. She's playing for reasons that will still matter years from now when her tennis career is over. So Coco Gauff lost to Aryna Sabalenka and responded by redefining what success means to her. She's not playing just to win anymore. She's playing for something bigger. And that honesty is more valuable than another trophy. If you appreciated this real talk about athlete mental health, smash that like button and subscribe for more content.